Hi, and welcome back to a new episode of Bold Books and Bones. This episode is called What Do We Tell Our Daughters? Now, I do not have a daughter. The title is more meant as a kind of mental image that might help to reflect for a minute how we, men and women, raise girls in our society. How do we encourage them to be free people that can achieve whatever they want in life? And do we actually encourage them in this way? Maybe your answer is yes, of course, or maybe not always. Either way, I would like to share with you several books that will encourage and inspire women to become the very best version of themselves.
I went down the road, by my apple tree. I went down the road, by my...
Why do I ask this question? Because so many times when I coach women in a business environment, it seems like as if they're living with their brakes on. They are at least as competent and intelligent as their male peers, no doubt about it. However, in many cases I observed that when they think they're up for promotion, that they do not speak up, or they speak up in a very ineffective way. And then I've seen too many women who are almost continuously overperforming in their work. However, they feel insecure about the quality of their work, and they question even the relevance of what they do. Feelings like this are in some cases related to a psychological pattern that we call the Imposter Syndrome or the Imposter Phenomenon. This psychological thought pattern was introduced by two clinical psychologists called Pauline Clance and Susan Eames in 1978. And if you're interested, Pauline Clance also developed a questionnaire about it. It's called the CIPS, the Clance Imposter Phenomenon Scale, and you can find it on her website. I will leave a link in the comments section. There are hundreds of studies out there that have meaningful things to say about this phenomenon. However, one thing I learned about the imposter syndrome and that really sustains it is what we call in psychology the pluralistic ignorance. Now, what does that mean? This means that you are maybe surrounded by hundreds of people with the same thought patterns than you. However, you think you are the only one who have these kind of thoughts. And why is that? Because we do not talk about it. So the next time you tell a bedtime story to your daughters, which story will you pick? Because stopping the ignorance about great women can help to prevent the imposter syndrome. Are you following? Yes? Then I would like to present to you 4 books that are packed with great and realistic, but also surprising stories about great women. So plenty of material that we can share with our daughters. The first book that is a perfect resource to choose from is called Women Warriors, written by Pamela D. Toller. And this book is full of surprises. Most of the stories in this book I never heard before, and that is very strange because I'm very passionate about martial arts, and for the last 20 years I have been reading quite a lot about it. Yet most of the stories in this book are totally new, with 2 exceptions. One is about Jeanne d'Arc, that famous female warrior from France, and the second one is about a young Chinese lady called Mulan, and she became world famous also because of the Disney movie that was made about her life. But this book by Pamela Toller shows that there were so many more women warriors throughout history. To me, the first striking insight that she shares right in chapter 1 is that a long time ago in what we call the pre-modern cultures, mothers and warriors were often seen as the definitive female and male roles. Warriors who died during battle and women who died during the process of giving birth were honored in exactly the same way. And that is shown through archaeological studies. So it seems that in pre-modern cultures, to take a life or to give a life were seen as equally important in securing a society. Now that is a very powerful image of equality. And then there are these many other very surprising facts in this book. There is, for example, this story about this famous Viking leader whose grave was discovered in Birka in Sweden in 1871. After the DNA research on the remains of the body, which was conducted in 2014, it turned out that this famous Viking leader that was celebrated by so many was actually a woman. So for more than 100 years, people just assumed that, well, this is a grave of a warrior. By default, it had to be a man. Even today, this fact leads to sometimes controversial debates in Sweden about the role of women in their previous Viking societies. And then this book gives a very nice overview of all kinds of women who served as warriors throughout time. Many of these women were disguised as men, so they could enroll in the regular armies of their countries. Some were discovered and were dismissed, but others were recognized for their bravery and their heroic contributions during battle. One fascinating story among many in this book is about a queen warrior from Angola, who spent 30 years in warfare and fought, among others, the Portuguese to keep her country free. And even at the age of 75, this was in 1657, she led her army into battle. She died in 1663 and left behind a thriving country and a great story. The strength of this book, to me, is that the many very well-researched stories that Pamela Toller shares come from across all cultures and from very different moments in time. So because of her research published in this book, we can't speak anymore about women warriors as some kind of insignificant exception of history. It is a phenomenon of all times and across the globe. It is therefore the perfect book to start searching for stories about women warriors and women leaders that you might like to share with young girls or with women who are in need of strong female role models. So if you want to kill the pluralistic ignorance and to prevent the imposter syndrome, then start sharing these stories. And I think it would be good that also this part of history would be shared during our history lessons at school. I don't know about you, but I never learned about these stories in the history lessons that I got back in school.
Oh, yeah.
The next book I would like to share with you is called Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls. And maybe this could be the first book that you would like to read to your daughter or granddaughter when they are still little. It contains 100 stories about remarkable women and girls throughout history. Or you want to read it to your sons or grandsons, so that they learn as of an early age that this is not only a man's world. There are many cool things about this book. First, this book was created via crowdfunding. The authors, Elena Favilli and Francesca Cavallo, raised more than $1 million from generous people from 70 different countries. And this shows how many people saw the need for having such kind of book. Secondly, it is a beautiful book. Every story is 1 page long, and there is a beautiful artwork about a woman in the story next to it. And each illustration is made by a different female artist. The third thing that is cool about this book is what you can do with it. You read the short story from the book to your granddaughter or daughter, and then if they feel interested in a particular woman, you can look them up on Google or YouTube. So together you can then find out more about this personality. For example, I looked up Alfonsina Strada. Since a very young age, she wanted to do road cycling races, but she was of course not encouraged by her environment because she was a girl. Then, when she married, her husband bought her, on her wedding day, a brand new racing bike. And with this nice support from her husband, of course, her career took off. With a lot of difficulty though, because in those days it wasn't really accepted that women would do such a sport. However, she went on with it, and she will be forever in the history books of cycling. You can still find some black and white pictures and some documentaries about her on the internet. I was also intrigued by Alicia Alonso. She was a blind ballerina, and there's a lot of footage still existing about her. She became world top, although she was blind. Or one of my favorites is Ada Lovelace, the gifted mathematician who is considered the first author of a computer program. She lived in the 19th century, so long before computers were invented. However, in her head, she already knew how such machines could work. And the fourth thing that is really cool about the whole concept of the book is that the authors also created 50 postcards of extraordinary women. All women on the postcards are of course also in the book. The box is designed like a little archive, and this could be fun when using it with young people. It has 5 tab dividers organized by female pioneers, leaders, creators, champions and warriors. And on one side you have the beautiful artwork, and on the other side you have the name and a short bio about the woman on the card. I think it could be fun to use it as a kind of game with young children, where you show the card and they have to guess why this woman was so special. There are plenty of opportunities there to learn about these women in a fun way. I like very much the combination of the book and the cards. There's great opportunities to educate ourselves and others about great women in the world.
Oh, yeah.
Both books, Women Warriors and Goodnight Stories for Rebel Girls, are the perfect tools to help spread the stories about great women and to help to stop the pluralistic ignorance about these great women. For sure, these 2 books helped me because I discovered a ton of stories about women that I never heard before. I hope that this episode of Bold Books and Bones convinced you to start sharing these stories with your daughters and granddaughters, or with your sons and grandsons, of course. In the next episode, I'd like to share with you 2 more books that can help to change the way our daughters look at women in the world. It will be 2 books with plenty of more female role models that could be relevant for your daughters and your sons. See you at the next episode of Bold Books and Bones. Bye.
Down the road, thought I have to see.